Gaius Julius Caesar was born July 13th, 100 BC to his parents Gaius and Aurelius Julius Caesar. He died March 15th, 44 BC, but we'll get to that part later. In 85 BC, Caesar's father died and left him to become the head of the family by age 16. Soon after that, he was crowned the Flamen Dialis, or the High Priest of Jupiter. I don't know, it was like some high political office thing that he was given for being the bloodline of the popular faction, but it doesn't really matter because someone takes that position away from him like 2 years later, so forget about that part. What you need to know is that now Caesar's a pretty prominent guy, and he gets to marry any other prominent guy's daughter. He decides to marry Lucius Cornelius Cinna's daughter, named Cornholia, Cornelia, and together they birthed the only girl in Roman history with a normal name, Julia. So while Caesar was off doing average 18-year-old things like getting married, having kids, and becoming the Flamen Dialis, this other guy named Sulla becomes the Roman dictator and kinda ruins Caesar's life. He strips Caesar of his prestige and honors, and even tries to get him to divorce Cornelia. Caesar refuses the divorce and skips town for about 7 years, when Sulla threatens to execute him. He finally comes back to town in 79 BC as a hero for saving a citizen in a battle and was awarded the civic crown. This is actually a crown of oak leaves and is why you see him in statues wearing leaves around his head. He gets pretty popular in his 20s and joins the Roman war effort. By successfully killing a few pirates, he continues to climb the ranks of popularity in the Roman Republic. But, as is the way with most famous people, he begins to grow a lot of haters. They begin to spread rumors around that he sexually persuaded their homosexual king to bed, so that he could gain a higher rank in the community. Actually, side note, a lot of people believe that Caesar was gay, which is pretty surprising since he had a ton of affairs with women. Even after he conquered the war in Gaul, his soldiers would sing, "Caesar, you may have conquered the Gauls, but Nicomedes IV of Bithynia conquered Caesar." Yep, you heard it here first, folks. Even the venerated and praised ancient Romans weren't above a little locker room talk. Moving right along, in 78 BC, Caesar becomes a really good lawyer and Sulla, the evil Roman dictator, finally dies. A few years later, in 69 BC, his wife and aunt also die. Caesar's life is full of turmoil, but I guess it doesn't affect him too much since the next year he becomes a Roman treasurer and marries Pompeia, Sulla's granddaughter. Actually, he didn't even like Pompeia that much, and a few years after their marriage, Caesar begins to cheat on her with a bunch of other successful men's wives. When he grows suspicious that she is cheating on him, he divorces her. But all this just leads up to the biggest part of Julius Caesar's life beginning in 58 BC when he leaves Rome to lead a 9-year war in Gaul as a general. There he conquered much of Central Europe and turned the smaller Roman Republic into the too-big-to-fail Roman Empire, forever changing world history as we know it. In 49 BC, the Gaul War finally ends, and Caesar crosses the Rubicon River with a small army to begin a civil war by attacking his old associate Pompey the Great. This is a pretty harsh blow since most people thought Caesar had an affair with Pompey's wife, but Caesar had to go through with the war so that he could retire from the Roman government with an even higher rank in society. Pompey was the main guy in Caesar's way of winning that title. Caesar attacks Pompey in Italy, Macedonia, and Spain, and finally finds Pompey assassinated in Greece in 48 BC during the Battle of Pharsalus. Most people might say that Caesar was only attacking Pompey for political reasons, but upon further inspection, I found that Julius's only daughter was married to Pompey the Great. So let's give him a break, he was only trying to be a good dad. Anyways, Caesar finds his way into Egypt after fighting Pompey to fight another civil war, and get this, ends up knocking boots around with Cleopatra. Really? I don't know, I just thought it was a really funny coincidence. Okay, so he fights a ton more battles with the Pompeian people in North Africa, and finally, in 44 BC, Caesar comes home to Rome as a huge dick. Dictator. Master of Rome, he uses his powers to help out the poor and middle-class citizens. Poor people love him, but the rich men in the Senate do not. Republican senators were starting to get sick of him and what he was doing to shun their higher government powers. So some of the high-class big shots, including Caesar's closest friends Cassius and Brutus, assassinate him on the Ides of March. After Caesar died, his nephew Octavian Augustus became the first emperor of the true Roman Empire. He did a ton of really good stuff, and some say he was the best Roman emperor. But basically, you would know him best by his and Julius's rendition of the calendar. Thanks to these two, we now have the 4th of July. But that's besides the point. What really matters is that tons of citizens genuinely loved Julius Caesar, and when the corrupt government decides to take action into their own self-interests, anarchy and riots ensued throughout the streets of Rome. People were furious at the governmental injustice, and the assassination of Caesar left an insatiable absence that no following emperor ever filled. Anyways, I probably missed out a lot on Julius Caesar's life, but that about sums it up. In conclusion, Caesar was a very clever guy who used brilliant rhetoric to become a great lawyer and brave general, and seriously deserves all the fame and power that he was given by accomplishing courageous battles all across Europe. Did he make a few mistakes along the way? Totally. But who doesn't? I truly think he makes a pretty sweet role model because he actually did everything it takes to achieve what he wanted and utterly changed history in the process. And he started it all at the age of 16.